going on, Jerome's? So NFL honors finalists have been announced, and no Vikings are likely going to be in the running for any of these awards, but it's just an honor to be nominated. But Vikings couldn't even do that. It's ridiculous. It is completely disrespectful, and we'll walk through the awards here. And yes, I mean, when you go 7-10, we have all the injuries. When no one told you life was going to be this way. Generally, you're not going to be up for awards, but some Vikings were definitely deserving, and we'll get into it. So, first up, comeback player of the year. Not really anyone on the Vikings, but this one's going to be interesting. So, Flacco and Damar Hamlin is who it's going to come down to, right? And I like that they put in Baker and Stafford and Tua. I mean, Tua coming back from his concussions and Stafford coming back from injury. Baker coming back from just being ass, thank you. But it comes down to Flacco, who, I mean, was out of the league. He was on the couch. He had been a sort of whatever spot starter for 4 years, and then got to the Browns, and things are good. And remember, all of these awards are regular season awards. I think people are going to be have a misconception of what happens in the playoffs versus what happened in the regular season. But with all right, we'll get into it. But with Damar, I mean, I feel like Damar should just get a separate award because he's in a different universe. Like, he literally died on the field and came back, and he's in a spot where he's playing and contributing. Not so much on that fake punt. I mean, Sean McDermott is trying to make this into a Disney movie, but what's going to happen, man? Like, if you're Damar Hamlin, like, first off, that fake punt had zero shot of working. And if you're Damar, you're just like, no. But you do have to respect what Flacco did. Browns were ravaged by injuries, able to drag their ass into the playoffs. But I don't know. I feel like either way, whoever wins, people are going to be really upset. Well, Damar wins. I don't feel like people are going to be that upset. But say Flacco wins. It's going to be crazy, man. It's going to be crazy. Coach of the year. So Kevin O'Connell was not a finalist last year. He should have been when the Vikings were 13-4. Once more won the division. But the finalists are Dan Campbell, Jumpin' John Harbaugh, DeMeco Ryans, Kyle Shanahan, and Kevin Stefanski. And again, regular season award. And what this award is, it isn't best coach. Because otherwise, like Andy Reid and Pete Carroll and Belichick would have won every single year. It's who does the most with the least. I mean, hell, Matt Nagy, fake-ass Brown Childress, won this award back in 2018. But Dan Campbell, I don't think you can say that Dan Campbell did the most with the least, because everyone on the ROM was hyping up the Lions all offseason, right? So who knows? John Harbaugh, I mean, so Harbaugh is sort of like the Andy Reid and Belichick and Pete Carroll here, where the Ravens are always good. The Ravens are consistently good, and that's something that is really hard to do when the league is trying to make every team 9-8, 8-9. DeMeco Ryans, I think DeMeco Ryans is going to win because he came in first year, rookie quarterback, and did the damn thing. It's been really impressive what they did with the Texans. Shanahan sort of in that John Harbaugh mold already, where San Francisco is always consistently good. Stefanski, through all the injuries and just rallying up this team and making the playoffs. I mean, you do have to take your hat off to Stefanski. But I do think that DeMeco Ryans wins this award, and he deservedly so. We'll see. Next up, assistant coach of the year. I didn't know that this was an award. But Ben Johnson, naturally. I have all the respect in the world for Dan Campbell, but I want to see how he does without that Ben Johnson offense. But I think Ben Johnson, I think teams like the Seahawks are waiting to see what happens with Ben Johnson. Just hey buddy. We got Dan Quinn as our backup, as our safety head coach. Why don't you just get out of the playoffs? We'll hire you. McDonald and Monken, both sides of the ball for the Ravens. They've done great. They've done a great job, especially Mike McDonald. Jim Schwartz and that Browns defense is legit. Bobby Slowick, the way that things really came together for C.J. Stroud and company. Also, big time props to quarterbacks coach Gerard Johnson with the Texans, former assistant quarterbacks coach here with the Vikings. I love him. Good times. Hey, can the Wolves get a stop? Anyway, but there's one name that's missing. Brian freaking Flores, right? And would Flores have won this award? Probably not. I think it's probably going to go to. I think it's probably going to go to either Ben Johnson or Mike McDonald. But it would have been an honor just to be nominated. I mean, Flores took a very ass thank you defense last year, where the Vikings were 28th in points and 31st in yards under Don Shell, and he improved them to 13th in points and 16th in yards. I don't care how they looked the last 3 games of the season when injuries caught up. I really don't. I do not. But I mean, Flores with largely the same personnel, I mean, got a hell of a lot of good play out of a sort of a spotty defense. All right, so I think Flores definitely deserves to be on here. Flores, I'm glad that we're keeping him for another year, but he definitely deserved to at least have a head coaching interview. But of course, we know the reasons why. Yeah. Offensive Rookie of the Year. So Gibbs, Laporta on the Lions, the much maligned draft class, which everyone's like, boo. Hey, Brad Holmes, boo. Puka Nacua, obviously Bijan Robinson and C.J. Stroud. I think it comes down to Stroud or Puka. Frankly, I think both of them could win. Maybe they'll tie. But, I mean, Bijan, okay. Gibbs, I understand. Laporta had 10 touchdowns. Cool. You know who else had 10 touchdowns? Jordan Addison. But, I don't know. Did you have to put both lines on there? Again, neither of them have a chance to win. Bijan has 0 chance of winning as well. But, it would just been an honor to be nominated. Addison was 6. Cool. Yeah, ridiculous, but adds fuel to the fire. Speaking of fuel for the fire, so Ivan Pace Jr. has already weighed on this. So, so Pace Jr. is pissed off. He's got even more of a chip on his shoulder. He's not going to have to wear shoulder pads next year because he was undrafted, unwanted, undersized, and now snubbed from the Defensive Rookie of the Year voting. So Will Anderson, respect. Jalen Carter. I mean, I feel like Jalen Carter is like a media creation as well. Like, he played well at the beginning of the season, sort of faded, but I mean, he's just all the hype, all the smoke, all the whatever. JPJ, respect, stud. Kobe Turner, extremely underrated. Frankly, I mean, he was the center of that Rams defense. He did a great job. And Witherspoon is quickly becoming one of the best corners in the game. So I think it's probably going to go to, I don't know, it's a bit of a toss-up. Like, probably Will Anderson. Maybe Spoon gets in there. But the fact that Ivan Pace Jr. didn't get in there is ridiculous. Second among all rookies with 70 tackles, led all the off-ball linebackers in sacks, pressures on PFF grade. And also, it's disrespectful that Brian Branch isn't on this list. Frankly, even though Carter had all the hype and played well at the beginning of the season, this list should be Will Anderson, Witherspoon, probably Joey Porter Jr., and Brian Branch, and Ivan Pace Jr. That's what it should be. But, again, the disrespect is absolutely real in this mother-father. Offensive Player of the Year, I mean, if JJ would have been healthy, yes. And, this is the award that JJ won last year. Offensive Player of the Year is basically just like, hey, who got runner-up for MVP? It's sad but true. But, Tyreek, Lamar, CeeDee, McCaffrey, Dak Prescott. I think what it should be is it should be Lamar or Tyreek wins Offensive Player of the Year, maybe CeeDee, and then McCaffrey wins MVP. Oh, spoiler. So MVP, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, McCaffrey, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy. I get regular season award. Otherwise, Dak, not so much. I understand that Josh Allen was Superman this year. Lamar had himself a fantastic season as well, but it's McCaffrey. I mean, if you take away McCaffrey from the Niners, they are a good team. They're not a great team, right? And if you take away Brock Purdy and plug in basically anyone else, you're going to be fine. So I hope that it's not a spot where McCaffrey and Purdy share split votes. Really don't want that. But then Defensive Player of the Year. So 4 edge rushers and Deron Bland, who had 17,000 pick sixes. Thank you, Zach Wilson. But yeah, respect. I mean, Deron Bland taking things to the house, although for a guy who gets a lot of interceptions and pick sixes, he sure does get burned a lot. Maybe that's a feature, not a bug of the Cowboys defense, because Trevon Diggs does that too. I mean, Trevon Diggs is a ball hawk, but then he gives up 1,000 yards receiving a season. It's ridiculous. But Crosby, Garrett, Parsons, and TJ. Now, Danielle Hunter obviously should be in this mix. 16 and a half sacks and also tied for the league lead in tackles for loss. But, I mean, Crosby deserves to be there. Respect that. But, Garrett, Parsons, and TJ Watt especially, I mean, they just get the hype. And they're just going to get that name recognition, check that box, and then go from there. But Danielle Hunter should be in that mix. Kirk Cousins would have been in this mix if he went and popped his Achilles. Really sucks, man. Ivan Pace Jr. should have been up for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Addison should have been a finalist for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Flores should have been in the Assistant Coach of the Year honors. And Kevin O'Connell is also a guy. There you go. But that's it. Let's take a look at the NFL Honors finalists announced. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.